Hello everyone, in this video we will try to solve another exciting coding problem from Codeforces, and the problem is balanced array. So in this problem we are given a positive integer n which is an even number. It's an even integer, and we are asked to construct an array A of length n. We are asked to construct an array A of length n. N is the integer that is given to us. So there are certain conditions that our array should satisfy, and here are those conditions. So we are asked to construct an array of length n such that the first half elements of our array A should be even. The first half elements of our array A should be all even numbers. Then the next half, the second half elements in our array A should be all odd numbers. That's the second condition. The third condition is all elements in our array should be distinct. Distinct in the sense they should not repeat themselves. One element will appear only once in the array. That's what it means when it says distinct. And also all elements should be positive. There is no place for negative elements in our array. The fourth condition and the most important condition is that the sum of the first half should be equal to the sum of the second half. So the first half elements are all even numbers. So their total sum should be equal to the second half, to the sum of the second half of the elements that are odd, that are all odd. So the sum of the first half elements that are all even should be equal to the sum of the second half of the elements that are all odd. That is what we have to do. And it is also given to us that it's not possible at all times that we can construct such kind of an array. It's not possible. So if it is not possible to construct such kind of an array that satisfies all these conditions, then we are allowed to say no. We can say no, we can print no if there is no suitable answer for the given test case. So if we are unable to construct an array given these conditions, then we can say no as well. Right? Yeah. If it is possible to construct the array, then we have to construct the array and we have to say yes. And not just we have to say yes, but also we have to print that array that we have constructed. We have to print the array that we have constructed. We have to say yes and we have to print the array. That's what we have to do. So I hope the problem statement is clear. So we will take this example 4 when n equals 4. So when n equals to 4, we need to construct an array A of length n. A. Yeah. We need to construct an array A of length 4. And in this array, half of the elements should be all even and the rest of the half elements should be all odd, and the sum of the even elements and the sum of the odd elements should be equal. That we have to take care. So we will start filling the array with the first even numbers that we have. So our even number starts with 2, 4 and so on, 6, 8, right? But we need only 2 even numbers because only half of the array we have to fill, and half of 4 is 2. So we will fill it with 2 and 4. Now mind you that 0 is also divisible by 2, but we cannot take it because each element should be greater than or equals to 1 and less than or equals to 10 raised to power 9. So each element in our array should satisfy this range. Can see this range? Yeah. Every element should satisfy this range. It can be either 1 or greater than 1 or 10 raised to power 9 or less than 10 raised to power 9. That's the condition we have. So yeah, we will start from 2 and we will end at 4 because just half of the elements, just half of the space we can fill in this array, because we have to keep the half space for the odd numbers. So we have taken 2 and 4 and we have filled it in our array, right? We have filled 2 and 4 in our array, so we will take the sum of 2 and 4. So 2 plus 4 gives us 6. So somehow we have to fill the next half of our array so that the sum of that half array is also 6. So if we take 1 and 3, which are the first odd numbers, their sum will give us 4. But we want 6, so we will not take this. What if we take 3 and 5? 3 plus 5 will give us what? It will give us 8. We can't take that also. So what to do now? If we take 1 plus 5, yes, that gives us 6. So we will take 1 plus 5 and that gives us our answer. This is the array that is constructed and we will return this array 2, 4, 1, 5. Let's check whether we are correct. So this is our second, and the output for the second one is yes, and the array is 2, 4, 1, 5. That's what we have constructed. So how to construct this? First things first, I purposely took this example when n was equals to 4, because when n was equals to 4 it was possible to construct an array, but that's not gonna be the case at all times. We might get a number for which it is not possible to construct an array. What if that happens? What if we get n to be a number where the construction of an array is not possible? How to check that, whether it is possible to construct an array or not? How to check that? So that's pretty simple. Let me show you how. We were able to construct an array over here because n was 4. But let's check if we take n to be 6, whether it is possible to construct an array. So A will have 6 elements, right? So we will start filling the array from the first half even numbers, so 2, 4 and 6. So their addition will be 2 plus 4 plus 6 gives us what? 12, right? Yeah. So somehow we have to fill the other half of the array so that their sum will be equals to 12. So if we take, and we have to fill it with odd numbers only. So if we take 1 plus 3 plus 5, it gives us what? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It gives us 9. So that's not possible. What if I take 1 plus 5 plus 5, 6, 7? This is 6 and this is 7. That gives us 13. So this is also not possible. So no matter what we try, we are not able to get 12 out of the combination of 3 odd numbers, because only 3 odd numbers we will be needing to fill this array, and with the help of 3 odd numbers we are not getting 12. So this is not possible. When n is equals to 6, it is not possible to construct an array. Why is it? The reason is pretty simple. You know, the sum of even numbers will only be an even number. The sum of even numbers will always and always be even number. But the sum of odd numbers will only be even if the numbers are even. The total numbers are even. Let me explain that. Suppose if we take 2 odd numbers, 1 and 3, then their sum will always be even, no matter which odd number you take. 5, 9, 11, 15, 6, 2. Yeah. So if we are taking even number of odd numbers, this might sound a bit tricky, but even number of odd numbers like 1, 2, they are 2 numbers. They are 2 odd numbers, so that's why the result was even. There are two odd numbers, so their result is even because 2 is even. If we take 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus 6, then also the result will be even. Why? Because the total number are 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if we take even number of odd numbers, make sense? Even number of odd numbers, then the result will be even. But if we take odd number of odd numbers, this doesn't sound that clear, but hopefully you got the point. So if we take 1 plus 3 plus 5, these are three numbers, right? Three odd numbers we have taken. So if we take three odd numbers, then the result will also be odd. 3 plus 1 gives us 4, 4 plus 5 gives us 9. So obviously it's gonna be 9. So the moment we are required an odd number of combination, then it's not gonna be possible. It's not gonna be possible. And here that is what we are required. We are required three number of odd numbers which will together give us an even number. That's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen at all. Three odd number will always give us an odd number no matter what you do. But we need an even number. So that's why this is not possible. So we have to say no over here. So how to recognize that? To recognize that, we will simply do one thing. Whenever we get n, we will divide n by 2. We will divide n by 2 and then we will check whether n by 2 is even or odd. If n by 2 is odd, if n by 2 is odd, then it means that half of the array, the second half of the array will must have odd number of odd numbers and their sum needs to be even, which is impossible. So here 6 by 2 is 3. So we need 3 odd numbers whose sum has to be even. We need 3 odd numbers whose sum needs to be even, which is impossible. So the moment n by 2 is odd, the moment n by 2 turns out to be odd, we will straight away say no. The moment n by 2 is odd, we will say no. When n was 4, then n by 2 was 2, which was even. So that's why the construction was possible. If n is equals to 12, then also the construction is possible because n by 2 gives us 6, which is even. So that's why the construction is possible. If n was 8, then also the construction will be possible because n by 2 will give us 4 and 4 is an even number. That's why the construction of an array is possible. But the moment n is equals to 10, so 10 by 2 gives us 5, and this means that we will have to somehow arrange 5 odd numbers whose sum will be an even number, which is impossible to do. The sum of odd number of odd numbers will not give us an even number. That's what we have proved, right? Yeah. So that's why it is not possible. So this is how we will be checking whether it is possible to construct an array or not. So here we have an example, 10. So we will check 10 divided by 2 gives us 5, which is an odd number. So we cannot arrange 5 number of odd numbers whose sum will be even. So that's why we will say no, and the answer is no. We have got this. Now the only thing that we have to understand is how to construct the array. How to construct the array. Okay. So for that we will take this example, 8. We will take 8. When n is 8, first we will check whether it is possible to construct an array or not. So we will simply divide n by 8, sorry, not n by 8, n by 2, and that's gonna give us 4. And yes, 4 is an even number, so that's why it's possible to construct an array, because we can find 4 odd numbers whose summation will be an even number. Okay, Hopefully you got the point. So we will take A, and the first step of constructing an array, the first step is to fill the half of the array with the first even numbers, with the first n by 2 even numbers. What is n by 2? It is 4. So yeah, the first step is to fill half of the array with the first even numbers. So we will start with 2 because that's the first even number, and we will continue 4, 6 and 8. That is it. We had to fill only half of the array, and we have filled the half of the array with all even numbers. Now what we have to do, we have to fill it with odd numbers such that their sum is equals to 2 plus 4 plus 6 plus 8, and that gives us 10, 18, 20. That gives us 20. So somehow we have to fill our array with numbers whose sum will be equal to 20. We'll have to fill this array with odd numbers whose sum will be equal to 20. So how to do that? So the first step we all know, it was just to fill the half of the array with all the even numbers starting from 2 and continuing in sequence. We have filled it, and then the next step is to fill the array with odd numbers. The next step is to fill the array with odd numbers and up to n by 2 minus 1. Up to n by 2 minus 1. N by 2 is 4. So 4 minus 1 gives us 3. So up to n by 2 minus 1, we have to start filling it with odd numbers. So we have to fill 3 odd numbers starting from the very first odd number. So the first odd number is 1, then we have 3, then we have 5. That is it. We have filled our array with n by 2 minus 1 odd numbers. 1, 2, 3. N by 2 minus 1 is 3, and we have filled it with first 3 odd numbers. So now the space for just one odd number remains, and we will not fill it directly. What we will do is we will calculate. We will do some calculations now. What we will do is we will take the sum of these 3 odd numbers that we have filled. We will take the sum of that. So 1 plus 3 plus 5 gives us 7, 8, 6, 7, 8 and 9 gives us 9. So the sum is 9 and this sum is 20. So what we will do is we will subtract this sum with this sum, and whatever remains we will add it directly over here. Whatever remains we will add it directly over here, because that is what is required for this half to be equal to 20, right? So we will simply say 20 minus 9, and that gives us 11. This will always give us an odd number. This will always give us an odd number. Okay, yeah. So we will simply fill it with 11, and that is how this one will also be equals to 20 and this one will also be equals to 20. Was it clear? If not, then let me show you again without any mess. So this we all understood, to fill the first half with even numbers, and then the next step is to fill the rest of the array with odd numbers starting from the first number, but we have to keep a space empty for the last one. So we just have to fill it up to n by 2 minus 1. We have to fill it up to n by 2 minus 1. Why minus 1? Because we have to keep a space for the last one. We have to calculate the last one and then we have to fill it. So we will fill 1, 3 and 5, and we will keep a space remaining empty for the calculation. So how to calculate that? We will take the summation of these numbers, 2 plus 4 plus 6 plus 8, which turns out to be 20, and then we will take the sum of these numbers, 1 plus 3 plus 5, and that gives us 9, and then we will subtract this sum with this sum, 20 minus 9, and whatever remains we will place it over here, and that's how we will be constructing our array. Common sense, right? Yeah. because obviously this minus this will give us the number that is required for the sum of these numbers to be equal to 20. That's plain maths, right? So I hope there is no doubt over here and it was all understandable. So that is what we will be doing. That is it. And the other thing I wanted to point out is how to take the sum of the first n number of even numbers or first n number of odd numbers. We can't all the time calculate 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus 7. We can't all the time calculate this. We can't even do this at all times, right? 6 plus 8. What if this turns out to be a big number? So we will have to calculate all the way. So we don't want to do that. So there is a formula to do that. And here is the formula. So the sum of first n even numbers is n into n plus 1. Let's verify that. First we will say n is equals to 4. So yeah, 2 plus 4 plus 6 plus 8. Yeah, 10, 18, 20. Yeah, 20. So the first n number of the first 4, the sum of the first 4 even number turned out to be 20. So let's check whether the formula works or not. So n is 4. 4 into n plus 1, that is 5. 5 fours are 20. So this equals to this. That's why this formula is now verified. The next is the sum of the first n odd numbers. Let's say n is again, this time we will take 5. So we need to take the sum of the first 5 odd numbers. 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus 7 plus 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Their sum will be equals to, this is 10, this is 17. My bad. So 25 is the sum of the first 5 odd numbers, and by applying the formula also we are getting 25. So this is also now verified. So we will be using these formulae to calculate the sum of first n even numbers and first n odd numbers. So we will directly open the coding section and we will start writing our code, balanced array. So first we will import, yeah, this is pretty good. So first we will import scanner. So java.util.scanner, and then we will create our class, public class solution, and public static void main string args. And then the first thing we will be doing is we will be initiating our scanner object, new scanner system.in. Then we have to take t test cases, right? So we will take sc.next int. We will accept t from the input, and then we will have to iterate through t test cases. We have to take the input n, and we have to check whether it is possible to construct an array or not. If it is possible, then we have to say yes, and we have to print that array in this manner. And if it is not possible, then we have to just say no. So we will use for loop for iteration. Int I equals 0, I is less than t, I plus plus. Let me write it in proper manner. Yeah, this looks great. Yeah. So now we have to take the input of n. We have to take n. Okay, n we have to take. So sc.next int, and after taking n, the first thing that we have to do is we have to check whether n divided by 2. Okay, so what we will do is, instead of using n divided by 2 at all places, we will directly divide n and we will name it half, n divided by 2. We will save it in this variable named as half. Okay, so now we will check if half modulo 2 equals to 0. That means we are simply checking if n divided by 2 is even or not. If it is not even, come on, yeah, if n divided by 2, if n is 6 and 6 divided by 2, which is 3, is not even, it is odd, then we cannot construct an array. I have explained the reason why it is not possible to construct an array, right? So we will only construct an array if this holds to be true, and this will only hold true if n divided by 2 is an even number, and if it is not an even number, then we will simply say system dot out dot println no. We will simply say no. So what we will do is, the first step, if you remember, was to just print n by 2, first n by 2 even numbers, so if n turned out to be 4, then we have to print the first 2 even numbers, that is 2 and 4. If n turned out to be 8, then we have to print n by 2, that is first 4 even numbers we have to print. So we had to print 2, 4, 6 and 8. That is what we had to print. That's our first step. So let's do that. So what we will do is, we will say int number count, or I can say number is equals to 0, and iterator is also equals to 0, and we will be using while loop this time, while. So while number, this number will increment only if we have printed an even number, So while number is less than half, while number is less than half, what we will do, while number is less than half, we will check whether iterator is even or not. If iterator turns out to be even, then we will print it. We will print iterator. And after printing iterator, we have to also print a space. Space is required to separate each element, right? We will print space, and then we will increment our number, right? And then we will increment our number, and we will also increment our iterator. We will increment our iterator outside this if condition, because even if it is even or odd, we had to move ahead. We can't just stay in that loop at all times, otherwise it's gonna be impossible. It's gonna be an infinite loop then, right? So this will help us to print all even number, the first half even number, this will print. And this we will start from 1. Why 1? Because no, not this will start from 0 only. This we will start from 1. Why we are starting it from 1? Because we know that each element in our array should be equals to or less than 1. It should not be equals to 0. So you don't want 0, so that's why we have changed it to 1. And then this prints, this entire loop will print the first half even numbers. It will print this much. If n was 8, it will print this much. And then what we have to do is, we have to start another loop. But before starting that loop, we have to change these variables again to 0. Number will be 0 again, and iterator will be 1 again. So we have again changed this number to 0. By the way, if you are getting confused, then let me tell you, the number is nothing but it is count of how many numbers we have printed. So this will only increment if we have printed something. If we have printed something, only then this will be incremented. So instead of number, you can change it to count also. Should I do that? I can do that. I hope you will not get confused. We can change it to count. We can rename it to be count. And this iterator is the one with which we are actually looping through or iterating through, and that's the one that we are gonna print if it turns out to be uh, even or odd based on our requirement. But this count, we are simply using it for help. It's like a helper to us. We are not gonna print it, or we are not gonna use it for some other reason. We are just using it for the sake of helping, so that we can terminate our loop once the total number of count the total number of even numbers we have got, right? It's only helping us to terminate the loop. That is it. So here also, instead of number, I will change this to count, count, count. Yeah. And iterator will be set to 1, but I will manually print the 1. We will have to manually print 1. We will have to manually print 1, and then we can increment it. Yeah, but after printing also we have to print a space, because we need to keep our elements separated. And yes, println is not needed. We will have to print a space. Yes. And now I can easily start a while loop, but this time the while loop will be until count is less than half minus 1. Why half minus 1? Because we have to keep a space remaining for the last element. The last element we will calculate manually and then we will print. If you forgot, so we had to print the first even number of elements, the first half even elements directly without thinking much. So that's what we have done using the first while loop. 1, 4, 6, 8. That's what we have done. And then the next step was to print the first n by 2 minus 1, half minus 1 odd elements, half minus 1 first odd elements. So 1, 3, 5. This is it. And we had to keep one place remaining for the last term, and that last term will not be in this sequence 1, 3, 5 and 7. No, that's not gonna be the last number. The last number we will have to calculate. We will have to take the sum of the first half elements, and then we have to take the sum of the other n by 2 minus 1 odd elements, and then whatever difference we get, that we have to fill over here, and that difference will necessarily it will be odd. So we can easily fill that over here, and that's how this part will be equal with this part, right? So we have to take the sum of this and we have to subtract it with the sum of this, and whatever we will be getting, that we will fill over here. So that's what we will be doing. But first, let's just print these ones. Let's just fill our array with these ones, these 3 ones. So that's why half minus 1. N is 8. N is 8. 8 by 2 is 4. And 4 minus 1 is 3. So we are printing these 3 odd numbers first. So we have already printed 1 over here. We have already printed 1. So that's why we will not take n minus 1, but rather we will take n minus 1 minus 1. Why extra minus 1? Because we have already printed 1. So that's why extra minus 1 we are taking this time. Yeah. So what we have to do? We have to simply check if iterator, and we also, after printing this 1, we haven't incremented our iterator. So we will simply say iterator plus plus, that is it. And now if iterator modulo 2 is not equals to 0, which means in simple words that if our iterator is not even, if the iterator is not even, or in simple words if iterator is odd, only then we will say system dot out dot print iterator. We will print that iterator, but not only we will print that iterator, but we will also print a space after that, because we need to keep each element separated with space. So that is what we will be doing. And then if we are printing this iterator, we will increment our count. But if we are not printing this iterator, we will not increment our count. But even if we are printing or even if we are not printing, we have to increment our iterator. Each time we will have to increment this iterator, right? So this while loop is also completed. This while loop will print the first n minus 2 n by 2 minus 1 odd numbers, n by 2 minus 1 odd numbers, n by 2 minus 1 odd numbers will be printed by this second loop. Now the only thing that remains is the calculation of the last element, and we have already discussed the calculation is nothing but sum of the first even numbers and sum of the other n by 2 minus 1 odd numbers, and whatever we will get, we will take sum. So we have discussed these formulae. If you remember the formulae, where are the formulae gone? But if you remember, n into n plus 1 was the formula for n, for the first n, for the sum of the first n even numbers. This was the formula for the sum of the first n even numbers, and this was the formula for the sum of the first n odd numbers. This was the formula for the first odd numbers. So that's why we will take that sum. So this time we have to take the sum of the first half even numbers. So what we will say? We will say half. This is sum of half even numbers. So we will say half into half plus 1, and then we have to take the sum of the odd numbers. But the sum of the odd numbers we will be taking of n by 2 minus 1. We have to take the sum of these numbers. We don't have to take the sum of the first half odd numbers. We have to take the sum of the first half minus 1 odd numbers. So we will say half minus 1 into half minus 1. That is the formula, right? For odd numbers the formula was n by n, and our n is n by 2 minus 1 this time. That's why n by 2 minus 1 into n by 2 minus 1. That is what we will be getting, and then we simply have to subtract them. So I'll say subtraction is equals to sum of even minus sum of odd, and whatever we get, I will simply print it. System dot out dot print print, and yeah, subtraction, and then I will also, no, this time I will not have to print space, this time we will not have to print space. Okay, yeah. So this is how the code looks. This is how the code looks. Yeah. So one thing that we have missed is we have not print yes. We had to print yes if the answer exists, and then we have to print our array. So we will do that. So if half by 2 is even, then we have to print yes first. So we will say system dot out dot print ln. This time we have to print ln and yes. Right? This thing we missed, and it's nice that we remembered it. And then one more thing is that after printing the last element, we have to print ln. We have to print ln. We have to leave a line. Okay, that is it. So this is how the code will look. If you haven't understood it, then let me explain it once again briefly, very briefly. If n by 2 is even, only then it is possible to construct the array, and that's why we will say yes. And then the first step of constructing the array is to fill the array with all the n half even numbers. So this while loop is doing that. It is filling the array with all the even numbers. It is filling half of the array with even numbers, and then the next step of ours was to fill it with n by 2 minus 1 odd numbers. We are leaving one place because of the calculations that we have to do. So we are leaving that place, and in the remaining place which we have left, the last element, we will calculate by taking the sum of the numbers that are filled, the even numbers, and we will take the sum of the odd numbers that are there in the array, and we will subtract both of their sum, and whatever remains we will print that, and that will be our last element. So that is the 3-step way of solving this problem, and this is it. And if this condition is not true, if the half of n is not an even number, then we will straight away say no, because then it is not possible to construct an array. And another thing is, if we have started this scanner object, then we also have to close it. So after this for loop, where is the for loop? Yeah, it's the for loop. Okay, I guess there is a problem in the brackets, so let's counter that. This one starts here and it ends here. Okay, yeah, if it ends here, then for what reason is this? You have to get rid of that. Yeah, that was an extra loop, sorry, not loop, that was an extra curly braces. I don't know for what reason. Now everything is perfect. This one ends here, this one starts here, and it ends here. And yeah, this one, where is this one? This one is for loop, right? Yeah, this one is for loop, and this one has to be for if, right? Yeah, if. So yeah, all the curly braces are also perfect. So this is the solution, and let's submit it and check whether the solution turns out to be correct, or do we have any typos. Let's check. Here you can see under the verdict, it is now in queue. Yeah, it is accepted. You can see it is accepted. So let me show the code once again, and you can take the screenshot if you will. Yeah, this is the code that we have written. I hope you got the explanation, you understood the explanation, and you also understood the code and you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.